astrology, there's rivalry between those two planets, and it's usually portrayed as two brothers, twin brothers, or a male and a feminine aspect. For instance, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, or Jesus and Satan, you see. And Saturn always gets to play the negative part, because Saturn is... The relationship between Saturn and the Sun is this. The Sun is the primary of the solar system right now. But probably around about 15,000 years ago, it was Saturn. And Saturn, according to the scientists at thunderbolts.info, Wallace Thornhill and those guys there, the position of Saturn was in a northerly position. It was the sun of this solar system, and it was in a coaxial relationship with the Earth. And in between Saturn and the Earth there was Venus and Mars. So it was a coaxial relationship, you see. And Saturn was always in the northern heavens as the sun of this solar system. Then 15,000 years ago, there was a switch. This sun turns up. Now, Saturn's orbit takes 29.5 years. And that's the magic number, because it relates to the sun in 29.5-year cycles, just as the moon relates to the Earth in 29.5-day cycles. So you see this powerful relationship between the Earth and the moon, the sisters, Isis and Nephthys, you know. And they are in a phase lock sort of orbit with each other, but it's very powerful. And the moon is very influential over this orb, the Earth, her sister. And it causes the tides and things like that, or at least it affects that. And we see the effect of the moon with people on full moons, with insanity and etc., all of those things. Well, Saturn does the same with the sun. And astrologers know that when Saturn is in transit, meaning when Saturn is in a position in your birth chart where you might have some certain frictions like afflictions. Okay, now this is astrological language, but it's still science. When Saturn comes to those returns, those transits and stuff like that, people notice it. They notice it. People who are aware. Not the average person, they don't know anything about this, but astrologers know the effect of Saturn. They know the effect of the moon, primarily. These two are the most powerful, without a doubt, in the solar system and in astrology. So, but in mythology you'll find that one is electric and one is magnetic. It's always like that. The relationship is always like that. And I'm pointing out the fact that L, which is the word, well, electricity derives from L. L is one of those words that turns up in the mythologies all the time. You have Emmanuel, Israel, the Bible, Babel, the bell for Baal that you have in the chapel and steeple and cathedral, and you go to the altar to worship El or Allah. All of these L words that have to do with masculinity, because the letter L is lamed in Hebrew and it is erect. It is the male phallic, the obelisk. So, and that is pretty much the sun. It's a sundial, and the sun is phallic. El, Elohim, or Elios. But Saturn also gets the title of El. So there's always this friction between... Saturn is known as Baal, or Baal, or Bel, or just plain old El. And you see, Jesus was called in Matthew 1, verse 23, and the virgin shall give a child, and we shall call his name Emmanuel. Well, Emmanuel, Jesus Emmanuel, that is, he's got a friend, a dark friend called Magdalene. Interesting about that, isn't it? El and mag, electricity and magnetism. So you see how these characters turn up And by the way, Mary Magdalene, I mean, Mary's a dead giveaway. Mary is maritime, marine, all those water words. You know, M is the crest of the wave, actually. You know, the water, the waves, M. And in fact, the Hebrew letter M, mem, for M, means water. So, and they stole that off Egyptian hieroglyphs. Now, the ancients spoke about electricity and magnetism as fire and water. You see, that's why Jesus, J-E-S, is yes in Hebrew, which means the sun or fire. Fire and water is in the myths, and people are missing it. And it turns up in these words. I mean, I can go on about that. There's many other words. They're all there. Ra and gra, radiation and gravity. Same as, because electricity radiates and magnetism gravitates, or is grave. You've got levity and gravity. You see? And with the Saturnian cult, a lot of cubes turn up. You know, you see cubes. For instance, the Muslims, the Islamists go to Kaaba for the Kaaba. You see, and they go anti-clockwise around Saturn, just like the rings of Saturn. You see, they're just basically, Saturn is the Kaaba, the black Kaaba. And the Jews also wear the little black box on their foreheads and everything. That's the same thing. Monuments all around the world, as you mentioned, the one in Parliament here in Australia, we have the box, the Kaaba. It turns up everywhere where the Saturnian cult like to leave reminders of their cult, you see, and their power, and where they are, and where they dominate, and where they rule. They like to sort of, like the animals that like to mark their territory, you see. But yeah, it turns up. It also turns up in our institutions. You see, when they give you on graduation day the square and the round black hat, and they dress you in black. This is all Saturnian, and they give you your master's degrees. You know, you become, you get the degrees. What are these degrees? Well, the word degrees is a tricky one because it has to do with 360 degrees. And last time I checked, they were angles, and last time I checked, angles has to do with angels. So the language of angels happens to be the language of angles, which happens to be the angles that go around the circle, the degrees that you get when you get your master's degrees. Only the people who have their master's degrees don't know anything about the angles or the angels. So that's what the language of the angels is. It's astrology, as above, so below. As the orbs go around that circle, by degrees, you see the sun travels 1 degree every day, and it does these 365 degrees, and finally it goes around the circle. Well, every one of those angles is an angel, and those 365 angels are looking after us because they are different angles of emanation of vibration from the sun. Now, the sun being the chief life giver, if he's changed his position every day into a different angle, well, then that's going to affect us, because we are directly sucking its energy. We are directly in its sphere. We're in the solar system, so we are just absolutely absorbing every photon that comes on every particular day, on a different angle, every day of the year. And people don't notice it because they're not looking. But the astrologer does, because he's looking for these, and he sees them, and he charts the course of the planets, and so he knows what they're doing. The sun that we have now was not so visible when Saturn was the sun. And if you read Hesiod and Homer and Virgil, Ovid and all of those greats, even John Milton and Dante Alighieri, you'll find that their works reminisce about a time when Saturn ruled the Golden Age. And he did. In fact, he did. It was the central sun of the solar system. And the sun that we have now was, just a secondary player. And it appeared virtually out of nowhere, around about 15,000 years. That's not my information, by the way. That's what I've read up on. And the scientists at Thunderbolts, I love that group of guys, because they're really onto the mythology for looking for truth. But a good video to look at is Symbols of an Alien Sky. They've got a lot of good videos there. Wallace Thornhill's a great speaker and explains, the electric nature of the universe. But when Saturn then fell, his son Jupiter took over the reins, you see. Jupiter is Zeus, and Zeus castrated Kronos, remember? Defeated Kronos, his father Saturn. And according to all the mythologies, that was the day when harshness entered into the world. And in fact, Hesiod says in the Theognis, I think it is, or Works and Days. But anyway, Hesiod writes that Jupiter brought the 4 seasons and the suffering of the 4 seasons, but Saturn maintained 1 season. And how that happened is explained very well at the people on the internet at thunderbolts.info. And they've got all the videos there that explain the coaxial relationship between the Earth and Saturn. And coaxial orbits are where planets are lined up like a string, like say like a rosary necklace or something like that. They're all on the one axis. And so that was the arrangement of the planets. And there's other arrangements, of course. There's orbital arrangements, there's phase lock arrangements like between the Moon and the Earth, etc. So this was a very, very powerful and strong hierarchy that we had in the heavens, and a very different configuration to what we have today. But something happened in the past, and the atom that we call Adam, which is Amun and Aten, etc., our sun, has lost some particles and gained some other ones, just like electrons do when they discharge particles and become negative and positive ions. The same thing happens with solar systems. They lose particles, they gain particles, they change. Nothing is the same forever. If one thing is true, is that there will always be movement. The souls are said to be released from this process and wheel of incarnation through the rings of Saturn at the Tropic of Capricorn. Capricorn is the place where the souls descend, and opposite Capricorn is Cancer, and that's where the Moon is positioned, and that is where the souls come in. Cancer is the gateway of men, the Tropic of Cancer, that is, and Capricorn is the gateway of the gods. Now, you'll find that both of these nodes in the arc of the circle are to be found where the divine crosses are to be found in the skies, which are where the ecliptic crosses the equator in the heavens. And that happens at Gemini and Taurus, and Sagittarius and Scorpio. Right next door to Sagittarius is Capricorn, the gateway of the gods, and right next to Gemini is Cancer, the gateway of men. So that's how it works. And as those skies turn daily and yearly, souls are coming in, souls are going out, souls are coming in, souls are going out. And that's how the whole process of incarnation on this beautiful planet we call Earth takes place.